to the right portion. Grossly negligent is the legal phrasing that initiates criminal accountability. He positioned the pad between the two terms. In 2 decades of practicing constitutional law, Madam Secretary, I have discovered that the gap between extremely careless and grossly negligent is the gap between a parking fine and a serious crime. The terms sound alike. The outcomes are not. One earns you a penalty fee, the other earns you a jail cell. And in this instance, the FBI director examined the proof: 110 restricted messages, 8 top-secret threads, bleach pit, a personal machine in a basement, and determined it was a parking fine. He placed the pad down, declaring, "You drove away," when an abrupt noise emerged from Clinton. Brief, reflexive, pushed through the nasal cavity. A chuckle, but not the rehearsed giggle of 1,000 gala banquets. An authentic chuckle, the short, instinctual chuckle of an attorney who has just witnessed a legal point so flawlessly built that the artisan within her cannot help but admire it, even while the point is being utilized to skin her alive. Parking fine versus serious crime was brilliant, and she recognized it was brilliant. Her Stanford undergraduate and Yale legal education had conditioned her to acknowledge brilliant legal framing automatically, irrespective of whether it is working for you or against you. But the chuckle perished immediately because she spotted the crimson bulb on camera one and comprehended in the split of a second that she had just chuckled regarding restricted messages on live TV. Her expression locked down, not slowly, but entirely at once, like blinds slamming over a pane. From chuckle to blank in under a second, the shift was so rapid it appeared robotic, unnatural, like observing someone flick off a switch. And the unnaturalness of that shift would turn into the viral moment, not the chuckle itself, but the assassination of the chuckle. The obvious instant when Hillary Clinton's expression shifted from authentic human emotion to a political facade in 0.8 seconds. Her assistant pushed a slip of paper across the desk, which Clinton scanned but declined to utilize. The note read, "Assert executive privilege, but executive privilege does not pertain to a civilian answering questions before." The slip was the maneuver of an individual who had exhausted their options, but still required the appearance of taking action. Johnson proceeded, his tone unaltered, persisting in teaching the way educators persist when a pupil creates a disruption. Senator Grassley has uncovered that the FBI never finished its audit of all flash drives holding duplicates of your messages. In 2025, there are drives that have never been accessed. A constitutional attorney would label that a defective probe. A freshman undergrad would label it obstruction via stalling. I will allow the American populace to determine what to label it, he commented. Final question, Madam Secretary, Johnson stated, flipping to a clean sheet on the legal pad. The yellow sheets that had been flipped were visible records, a visual log of the test, 5 inquiries, 5 tenets of constitutional law. Article 1, Sections 2 and 3 of the Constitution bestow upon Congress the authority of oversight concerning the executive branch. That authority contains the power to issue subpoenas and retention directives for state documents. Lacking this authority, Congress is unable to execute its constitutional duty. Lacking this authority, the executive branch functions devoid of oversight. The framers comprehended that authority devoid of oversight is dictatorship. That is not my perspective. That is Federalist 51, he lectured. He gazed at Clinton, proposing, "Let me walk you through a chronology." The sentence echoed, but this instance it possessed a distinct gravity. This was a progression of dates, and dates do not debate. They merely rest there in sequence and inform you of what occurred. March 4th, 2015. The House Select Committee on Benghazi delivered a subpoena for your records. Concurrently, a retention directive was issued demanding that all pertinent files be kept he pointed out. He scribbled on the pad March 4th, March 25th through March 31st, 2015. Your IT staff deployed BleachBit to irrevocably obliterate messages on the personal machine, he logged. He scribbled March 25th to 31st, and he sketched an arrow connecting the 2 days, 21 days, separating the directive to retain and the choice to obliterate. 3 weeks, he emphasized, staring at the lenses. This subsequent portion was not for Clinton. It was for the 40 million citizens tuning in from their living rooms who had never encountered the term spoliation. In constitutional law, we possess a term for obliterating material after a retention directive has been issued. The term is spoliation. I'm going to clarify what that signifies because they do not broadcast it on cable television, he explained. He raised the pad. Spoliation activates one attorney's term an adverse inference. Here is what that signifies in simple English. When an individual obliterates material after being instructed to save it, the legal system does not suspect, assumes that whatever was obliterated was detrimental to the individual who obliterated it. The onus of proof reverses. You are not required to demonstrate the material was damaging. The individual who obliterated it must demonstrate it was not. He placed the pad down, finalizing, if you erase a mobile message after a magistrate instructs you to save it, the tribunal presumes the message was detrimental to you. That is the rule for every citizen in every tribunal. He gazed at Clinton, hammering the concept home. 33,000 messages erased 3 weeks after the legislature demanded they be kept. That is spoliation. That is an adverse inference. That is the justice system declaring, we are unaware of what resided in those messages, but we are aware you obliterated them when instructed otherwise. Therefore, we are going to presume the most damaging scenario. That is not an interpretation. That is absolute legal doctrine instructed at Yale. Clinton's right hand, motionless for 25 minutes, shifted toward the water tumbler, a path recognized from the Kennedy inquiry, when she utilized the tumbler as a stalling maneuver. The hand halted 2 inches away from the tumbler, suspending, because reaching for the tumbler at this moment was reaching for a tactic already revealed. She realized halfway through the motion that she was on the verge of committing the exact same error twice. The hand rested, suspended between hydration and tactics. Comprehending everything her physical form could execute had already been deciphered by the viewers. She dropped her hand flat onto the desk. An individual who had concluded taking no action was the least terrible alternative available, which is not a choice anybody makes while succeeding. Johnson stood up, not dramatically, but to end. Recapping his 5 constitutional inquiries regarding records, oaths, FOIA, classified data, and oversight, he noted that her elite Yale education taught her the law perfectly. However, she deliberately bypassed the framers' established safeguards, arrogantly believing they simply did not apply to her. Johnson masterfully flipped her opening insult, stating the true distance between Shreveport and Yale is the massive gap between honoring the law and learning the law merely to subvert it. Since she deemed the examination completely beneath her, her 5 unanswered questions earned much worse than a failing grade. He then delivered a final, unanswerable query. If the Constitution does not apply to a former Secretary of State, who does it actually apply to? 10 agonizing seconds of suffocating silence followed. Clinton's mouth opened slightly, but shut again, realizing any possible response would either openly defy the Constitution or weakly beg for leniency. The Constitution offers no grading curve, so she remained entirely mute. Quietly, Johnson contrasted her actions with his father, who sacrificed his body for his oath, whereas she treated her sacred pledge like a casual suggestion. Striking the heavy gavel once, he adjourned the intense session, permanently cementing her irrevocable failure into the official congressional record. The immediate public aftermath was explosive, triggered by a viral short clip of Clinton's face snapping from a genuine chuckle into a cold, calculated political mask.
Did I mention that
This
I have an
chilling
idea?
transition accumulated over 34 million views in just 3 days and birthed a massive TikTok trend as the nation finally witnessed the authentic facade slipping. A Stanford psychologist labeled it effective override, but the impending legal blows were far heavier. A federal judge issued an unprecedented adverse inference order, legally presuming her destroyed private records were inherently damaging. Simultaneously, the FBI was mandated to crack open unexamined drives containing top-secret files, prompting the DOJ to quickly expand their probe into the massive Haiti relief disaster. Following Elon Musk's public criticism of her deliberate evidence destruction, the IRS formally audited the Clinton Foundation. The compounding scandal cost Clinton her prestigious Georgetown commencement address and a massive $3 million literary book deal. Ironically, Yale Law School integrated the hearing into their ethics curriculum, while the contrast was broadcast across highway billboards. You just watched an unassuming constitutional attorney completely dismantle a political titan. Her deafening silence confirmed the test is conclusively over and her failing grade is permanently archived. Senator Grassley is currently preparing to open those restricted drives. The final true verdict ultimately belongs entirely to you. What dark secrets